Expedition 33 has quickly become a favorite of mine, but the skill damage descriptions are seriously lacking, so I tested every skill myself to find out the real damage numbers and share them in a spreadsheet.
Death is a friend who will welcome me home.
In this video I'll cover Sciel, her mechanic and its impact, as well as her skill's damage potential. You'll find all the data in the spreadsheet linked in the description. How the table works is every skill's damage is measured against base attacks, so a 3.0 multiplier, for example, means that skill hits for as much damage as landing 3 basic attacks, and that's the benchmark that I'm using. Now, Sciel is definitely the most complex character in the game, with lunar charges, twilight and foretell. Lunar charges let you enter twilight state as soon as you have at least one sun and one moon charge, giving you a damage multiplier based on the amount of charges gathered. That bonus is 25% per charge, and each ability grants either a sun or a moon charge. So if you enter Twilight after 2 abilities, it will grant you a 50% damage bonus, but you can also technically use like 19 moon abilities followed by a single sun skill to enter a 500% bonus damage Twilight state if you wanted to. Twilight lasts 2 turns and also lets you apply twice as much foretell, which is her other mechanic that lets her empower abilities based on how many foretell stacks you have applied to the enemy. This can add between 250 and 350% more damage, a big multiplier comparable to stains or masks, and foretell will be the main damage condition for her higher damage abilities. In Twilight state, this bonus can even be doubled up to a 500 to 700% increase in damage, and while the Twilight damage increase of 25% per charge is hard to account for because it's not static, I don't think it even has a limit, the sole benefit of doubling the foretell bonus is so huge that you should try to enter it as frequently as possible instead of going for a infinitely charged Twilight state. And because I wanted to at least try my best to give some feasible comparisons to the other characters' skill damage numbers, I chose to put in a Twilight column, which entails entering a 2-charge Twilight state for a 50% damage bonus and the ability to apply twice as much foretell and use 20 stacks for a damage ceiling. After all, you can have 50% uptime on a 2-charge Twilight, which will more than double the damage of your highest damage skills, so I thought it was necessary to include both the explanation and a common Twilight state scenario in the table to paint a better picture of her skills' potencies. But before we get into her damage potential, let's quickly take a look at how accurate her in-game skill damage descriptions are to see if there are any misleading outliers. Sorting by base damage, at the top we have her lowest damage skill focused foretell, which is tagged as medium damage, which makes no sense. Obviously it should be tagged as a low damage ability. Other than that, it's not looking too bad. These abilities literally deal the same damage with different tags. Bad Omen actually does decent damage, is AoE, only costs 3 and applies 4 foretell to all enemies. Pretty good for an early game area of effect skill. It's literally double the damage compared to her single target medium skill. Our sacrifice has mid base damage, but with the HP sacrifice it does indeed deal extreme damage, so that's spot on. And then we have another couple of skills that share the same damage but different tags, which is always weird, but it seems to happen with values that link these damage tiers. So 3.6 seems to bridge the medium and high damage tiers. 2.4 does the same for low and mid. So it's not a big deal, and if you ignore focused foretell, which obviously should be low damage, it's actually pretty reasonable. So far the least misleading skill damage descriptions out of any character for sure. Still not that useful being this vague, but at least it's not completely wrong on top of being vague. But now let's finally look at her skills' damage potential. First off, her sun skills. These cannot be powered up, but they are the ones that apply foretell and enable the huge multipliers on your moon abilities, the setup skills basically. At the top we have Final Path, which is amazing with a 10.5. It also applies maximum foretell and can break. Super good, but it is 9 AP, and you may not have enough AP for your desired follow-up immediately after. Then her Gradient Attack 1, which is less damage, but doesn't deplete your AP and allows for a better follow-up. Spectral Sweep deals pretty underwhelming damage compared to Final Path, while still being relatively expensive, but it is the only other basic skill that can cap out foretell stacks with a single use if you have a decent crit rate. And then the other abilities are fine early game skills, We have cheap area of effect with some foretell. Marking card, well, applies mark, which is great, but late game these neither deal enough damage nor apply enough foretell to even be worth a turn in my opinion, because you really want to max foretell for the big Danny with moon abilities. Speaking of which, at the top we have End Slice. Her gradient attack 3 truly has infinite damage potential, and it doesn't even take that long to get crazy numbers. It's 20% more damage for each single stack you have consumed in the whole fight with a 12 base. So with 30 foretell stacks consumed, which is doable with a single 4-turn Twilight rotation, you're already looking at a 84 multiplier before the Twilight bonus damage. Pretty strong, and the sky's the limit. The highest non-gradient skill here is our Sacrifice, which sets your allies' health to 1% to deal up to 300% more damage, and then if it consumes 10 foretell stacks, it's another 300% more multiplicatively, and with these multipliers on top of each other, you are looking at turning a 2.8 base into a 44.5, and once in Twilight, the foretell bonus can increase from 300% more to 600% more, and Twilight itself adds another 1.5x, and you're looking at almost 120. At a small price, that is your ally's health. She doesn't drain her own health, by the way. I feel like it should drain her own health too. I mean, it's called Our Sacrifice, so kind of a dick move to stay at full health herself. But yeah, the Danny's good. It's actually the highest damage non-gradient attack. And then Twilight Dance is the highest damage skill without hard feelings. It does cost 9, but it also extends Twilight by 1 turn, which is really nice. Definitely the best skill to use if you have the AP and don't want to throw your allies under the bus. The next best few moves deal significantly less damage. Phantom Blade can break, Dark Wave is area of effect, and then Delaying Slash. This one I was really surprised by how high the multiplier can get. I mean, the base fits the medium description, but then look at this multiplier. I kind of wrote it off because I felt the delaying shit wasn't working half of the time, but I didn't know it could outdamage Elemental freaking Genesis while also maybe sometimes delaying an enemy's turn. And then everything else doesn't really compare. Not worth consuming any foretell pretty much. Sealed Fate is kinda cute for not consuming foretell on crit. The damage ceiling isn't amazing, but you may find a turn where you can try to squeeze it in, although I would probably just use Intervention most of the time. But Intervention is like the most broken skill in the game, and why she's such a good support character. So that may not be a fair comparison. But now we can actually see how much damage she could be doing, and it's not bad. Just keep in mind that she needs more setup to hit these big numbers compared to other characters. The empowered attacks here you will only get on your second turn, and then the empowered Twilight attacks will typically take 4 turns. Now, because Sciel has such amazing support abilities, I think the best way to utilize her whole kit would be to use support skills on your first 2 turns, and then once you're in Twilight state, you can unleash the hard-hitting skills yourself. So for example, turn 1 double damage an ally, turn 2 intervention, make them feel real nice, and then turn 3 you're in Twilight state. Now you can final path for 20 foretell, and then turn 4 sacrifice your allies for the juicy 120 to show them how it's done. I think that perfectly aligns with her lunar light and dark concept, you know. Anyway, grab the sheet in the description, leave a like if it helps, and stick around for more guides. Thank you.